Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. I was recently tagged by my friend Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads in a brand new original tag that he created. This is called a Reader's Favorite Songs tag. And I'm just going to read to you what Greg had to say about this tag. He says, a tag to list your favorite songs and how they may or may not relate to your reading tastes. The prompt. People read, but they often listen to music as well. Do readers' choices in music reflect their preferences in reading? As a reader, what songs interest you? Let the viewers decide whether musical tastes match reading tastes. Name a few of your favorite songs. There's no need to put them in a specific order unless you'd like to. There's no minimum or maximum number of songs required. People tend to resist being bound to a set number. Don't overanalyze each song choice. A brief comment will be sufficient. I'm saying songs, but interpret that broadly. There are many kinds of music that might not fit the strict definition of a song. Go with whatever feels right to you. So I thought this was a great idea. I've seen a couple different people's versions of this tag going around in the last week or so, and I thought that I would give it a try as well. So I'm going to name some songs and try to at least explain a sentence or two about why they're important to me, and then I'll put links in the notes below to videos that include these songs. So if you're interested in any of them, you can give a listen to some of my favorite songs. Okay, so the first person who came to mind, and the first person who always comes to mind whenever I hear anybody talk about significant music in their lives, for me, that's Bob Dylan. I discovered Bob Dylan when I was in the 6th grade, so we're talking about the early 1970s, and I discovered him because my oldest brother, who's going to figure prominently in a number of my responses, because he had a great influence on my musical tastes. But my oldest brother had written a paper about Bob Dylan for college. And somehow I came to read his paper. And I, even though I was in the 6th grade, I became very interested in what he was writing about. And I went off on my own quest to learn everything I could learn about Bob Dylan. So there was a time in my life when I followed Dylan very closely, when I bought all of his albums. The first album that I ever bought of Bob Dylan's was the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, which was an album that came out in 1963, and included on that album are such songs as Blowin' in the Wind, Masters of War, A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, and Girl from the North Country. So some of his very, very famous early classics are on that album. But I think, and having listened to Dylan for much of my life, certainly my young life, my favorite album by Dylan has long been his 1974 album, Blood on the Tracks. And my favorite song on that album is You're a Big Girl Now. And I'm going to put a link to that in the notes below. Next on my list would be Bruce Springsteen, and I could have chosen any number of songs as my favorite Springsteen song, but I'm going to include down below the iconic Born to Run from 1975. My brother, same brother, had seen Springsteen perform at Bucknell University in 1975 I believe the tickets were something like $6.50. I mean, imagine that. But at any rate, he came home, uh, and that Christmas, he gave me the album Born to Run. And he said, pay attention to him. He's going to be very big. Well, truer words were never spoken. That was my introduction to Springsteen, but then I went back and bought his earlier albums, and I have followed Springsteen ever since then. So I've followed Springsteen for the last 50 years. Okay, next, I would have to say James Taylor. And the song that I'm going to include is his song Fire and Rain from 1970. And the reason I'm including James Taylor is that James Taylor is the first person I ever saw in concert. There was a place in New Jersey where many of us as teens went to see concerts. Early on when we first started doing, going to concerts. And one summer, I was, in the middle of high school, but I saw James Taylor and I also saw Jackson Browne that summer. So those were the first concerts that I ever saw live. And Fire and Rain has been an important song throughout my life, especially as I learned what the song was really about. Next, I'm going to say another song that I probably learned about from both of my older brothers. I had two older brothers, and they definitely influenced my musical tastes early on. Early in my teens, I was introduced to the Grateful Dead through my brothers, and the first Grateful Dead album that I bought was the 1970 album American Beauty. And my favorite song on that album is Ripple. And I'm going to try to include that in the notes below. When this was released, as a single, Ripple was on the other side of Truckin', also an iconic Grateful Dead song. But just listening to this, these early Grateful Dead songs, it just takes me back to a time in my life and a time in my family's life, when we were all very young and still full of all kinds of potential. So it just reminds me of, the early 70s. I would also have to include Jackson Browne on any list of favorites. And as I said, that first summer that I started to go to concerts, I saw James Taylor and I also saw Jackson Browne. Jackson Browne is one that I discovered, not through my brothers. I discovered Jackson Browne, I think, through my dear friend Terry, and just started buying up his albums. And when I got to college, many of my friends were also big Jackson Browne fans as well. The song I'm going to include is For a Dancer, and this is on Jackson Browne's Late for the Sky album, which I think came out in 1974. So you'll see that a lot of my favorite songs are classic rock, and they are from the 1970s. Now, one favorite song that I have is from much earlier than that, but I didn't learn about it until the 70s. And this is the 1966 Simon and Garfunkel song, April Come She Will. And this is from the Sounds of Silence album, and this album came out in 1966. I learned about this song when I was a junior in high school. I had an incredible English teacher who is certainly one of the reasons why I wanted to study English and why I wanted to become an English teacher. And I had this teacher for British literature, and we were studying the Romantics, and specifically Romantic poetry, and we were learning all about the importance of nature to the Romantic poets, such as, or especially Wordsworth. And we went on this sort of weekend long field trip where we stayed in a cabin and we sort of lived out close to nature for the weekend. I can't even imagine anything like this happening today, but we had this wonderful get back to nature sort of Walden, Thoreau type experience. And we were supposed to, bring poetry to read, and we read our poetry around a fire. My teacher was also married to another teacher in the school, and he came along as well. He was a social studies teacher, and then there was another set of teachers that came as well, another English teacher and her husband, and then our English class. So we got in touch with nature, and we read nature poetry, and my teacher was an incredible guitar player, and she was an incredible vocalist. In fact, I think she's a professional singer today. And she played and sang the Simon and Garfunkel song, April Come She Will, which we all fell in love with, and it became an emblem of this very, very special weekend where we all got in touch with nature and with nature poetry and beautiful folk music. So that's a song that has always had a special place in my heart as well. Another song I would have to add would be Cat Stevens, who is now known as Yusuf Islam. He's someone that I also followed since the mid 1970s, but the song that I'm choosing is his rendition of Morning Has Broken, which he recorded in 1971. And it's actually a remaking of a traditional hymn that was first written in 1931. I loved this song as a teenager, and it was also a song that was performed by a very dear friend of mine and of the family. It was performed at my brother's funeral. And this is the brother who so influenced much of my reading and much of my musical taste as well. But it's very much a song about the end of suffering and new life and resurrection. And so that's a song that has always had and will always have a special place in my heart. And I think I'm going to close with something a little more contemporary. I'm going to get out of the 1960s and 70s. In the late 80s, I would say, I discovered the Indigo Girls, and they have stayed with me throughout my life. And I'm going to include a song from their, I think it's from a 2004 album. The album is called All That We Let In, and the song that I'm going to include is that title song, All That We Let In. And it is also a song about losing loved ones too early, too soon, but mostly it's about how we're all better off for for all that we let in, for the people that we let into our lives. So I thought I would close with that, and I'm going to put a link to that song in the notes below. So, Greg, this was a really, really terrific idea. I really enjoyed putting this together. I've been loving watching other people's versions of this. And I hope that you enjoy my version as well. If you're watching this and you'd like to jump in to this, I hope that you will. That you will do a version of this as well. And, as I usually do, I'm going to tag some people that I think might be interested also in the notes below. But, do all of these songs tell you anything about me as a reader? I don't know. You tell me in the notes, in the comments. But I think it's probably obvious that I'm interested in lyrics, and that I see a lot of music as poetry. So that probably comes as no surprise to anyone. So anyway, I'd love to hear about your favorite songs in the comments, and I hope that other people will do this tag as well. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.